Ladies and gentlemen, Monday mornings will never be the same. The So What Morning Show is in the building with yet another riveting topic. You know how we do. I'd love to invite you all to go to the phone lines, 855-878-4652. If you're having any relationship issues, surrounding money, today's the day to call in. We got all types of guests, professionals, clinicians, psychologists, behavioralists. All of these folk are going to weigh in on this topic. 75% of all relationships, money is the problem. I don't know. Somebody call us at 855-878-4652. Really quickly, some house cleaning to do. Geoff Brown is sick. Send some love and healing energy towards the intellectual irritant because I don't have the strength. I can't.
What's wrong with him?
I don't know. He said he was sick.
Oh, okay.
He said he was out. He said, you don't want what I got floating around the studio.
Good.
That's what he said. I said, okay, you stay wherever you are. You got the monkey outbreak. We don't want that. And then Dr. Goulston is traveling.
Okay.
He told us that last week that he would be traveling. So in his stead, in Dr. Goulston's seat, we've got none other than Uncle Bobby Glanton Smith in the building. What's happening, man?
It's Glanton.
Glanton Smith. Yeah. Excuse me.
Get it right.
That's right.
I must speak the King's English when mentioning my brother. Glanton Smith. Thank you for being here, man.
Always an honor, man, to sit next to you, brother. You know that. And
Appreciate
she
it.
brightens up the room. I just don't want it to go to her head, though.
Well, it ain't gonna go to her head. I'll tell you that. She's beautiful, though.
Well,
Thank you, Brandy McGee.
Well,
Thank you for sitting in for Geoff Brown.
All right, then. I'll be Geoff today.
You gonna be Geoff today?
Yeah.
Still gonna be a tough topic, and I think we're gonna have to cover a lot of ground to get some type of understanding. But as commonplace, what I like to do is a book section. I've got books that we all need to actually go out and get. I don't tell you to get to read the books or go get the books or just buy the books. Support the books. It's only going to expand your consciousness. That's the whole purpose of opening up my library so you can read what I've read that led me to whatever understanding that I have, which ain't much. But
No, that's not true.
Brother Bobby Glanton Smith, and support his work, support his website, all of his endeavors, his movement. But the first thing you got to do is go pre-order this book right here. Real Men Don't Play, a collection of interviews of highly respected men whose accomplishments can be traced to their unwillingness to compromise their values, principles, commitment to their families, and to themselves. Once again, Real Men Don't Play. Very, very heavy book. Trust me, from a heavy dude. Listen, support him all the way to the end, till the wheels fall off. My next book, The Rebirth of Seeds. For all those who have reached out all over the country, the UK, Thailand, I'm telling you right now, that mail cost is expensive. But I will get it to you. I appreciate all of those orders that are coming in. Please continue to support my work by going to my website, IamZoeWilliams.com. That is the website, IamZoeWilliams.com. Please support. We appreciate all that you've done to this point. Now, more books. This is in alignment with our topic. The Death of Money. How the electronic economy has destabilized the world's market and created financial chaos. Joel Kurtzman. Look at that book. Go get it. Because, we have some people out there that actually put together an independent Zoe Williams book list, and it's floating around Twitter and Facebook and the internet. Everybody really loves this book list. So go get the book, support these people. Let's read. Let's continue to converse. Next book, Gold Wars, The Battle for the Global Economy. Kelly Mitchell, Gold Wars. This is going to be cold, too. By the way, I've read all of these books. The Death of Money, The Coming Collapse of the International Monetary System. James Richards. Very good book. These books deal with things like, what is the difference between money, and currency. A lot of people don't know the difference. A lot of people don't know the difference. We're going to cover all that chicanery later on. Trust me. And here, fiat paper money, the history and evolution of our currency. Ralph T. Foster. These are books I want you to go out and support. That is my book segment. Now we have to move over to the community empowerment segment. Now, there's a website I want you guys to take down. It's called www.hiploose.com. There it is right there. This brother right here is out of Houston, Texas. You know, man, when we talk about high-end fashion and tailoring, they created some clothes for Zoe. They're actually building a Zoe Williams line of clothing, high-end fashion line of clothing with my own name and stuff on it, with the tag. It's going to be cold. I'm working on it right now.
I can see you in that plan on the bottom.
You can see that, right?
Yeah,
just a cold piece of work, right?
I don't know about that black thing's a little moist looking.
Look, that's one of the shirts they created for me.
That's pretty. That's Zoe-ish.
Yeah, very nice, very nice. You know, they created this for me, and a lot. I'm telling you, they're creating a line of clothes for me. But if you want something special, specially tailor-made, go to hiploose.com. Pull it up one more time. My homeboy Matt is the head designer. I mean, he's a cold piece of work. He sends me all types of stuff all the time. hiploose.com. They tailor everything. It's bespoke. You know, it's high end. This ain't no...
I'm looking at it.
This ain't no cornucopia. This is the real deal right here.
What's behind the name Hip Loose?
I don't know. My hip ain't never been loose. I can't even dance. My hips are so tight. So I'm just saying it's a cold line of work, and I like to promote people that are within our community, because we're going to talk about money. We're talking about money. And part of the money situation is bringing that flow of current back into our community, and we tend to not do that. So that's why I promote companies like hiploose.com and the other brother who I wore the Egyptian stuff. I mean,
right.
You know, I tend to support people that have high-end, classy things. Don't send me the ratchet now and later colored T-shirt. I can't do it. But, you know, the high-end stuff, I'm with it. I'm going to support you. Let's continue to do that movement.
You know, it's funny, as you get into this subject, I was sitting there thinking back when Reverend Ike was at the top of his game, and he professed that money was not the root of all evil. It was the lack of money that was the root of all evil.
Oh, here we go. So let's do this, like I like to do. Before I introduce the topic, I want to introduce my guests again and find out what they're up to, what's going on with them. Bobby Glanton Smith, what's happening with you? I hear you got a show. What's happening? What's going on?
It's called the Real Men Don't Play Show, and I'm excited about the prospects for the show simply because it gives me an opportunity to create a cross between the barber shop and the living room. I've been blessed to know some of the most amazing men and women of this generation and past generations. My first guest was my mentor, my father figure, and my dear friend, the great Geoff Brown. Last week I had Antoine Fisher on the show, and you rode shotgun, and we had a blast.
Come on, man.
What we're doing on that show is giving people an opportunity to meet some of the men and women that give me an opportunity to define manhood and in some instances womanhood.
And what days?
That's Thursdays at 6:30 p.m. PST, Pacific Standard Time. It's a 1-hour show. And this coming Thursday, it's interesting that our minds coalesce the way that they do, because the show is going to be about the economics of self-determination, models of possibility, and it's going to be a wonderful overlap of what this show today is all about, because I do have an interface with some brothers that are at the cutting edge of creating commerce in a way that will not only give us a blueprint for being able to participate in the larger economy, but to also address some of the critical situations that we're confronted with within the economy.
Good stuff, good stuff. Brandy?
Oh, well, you know, you can catch me tomorrow.
Yes.
Every day after this day with Zoe and also two other co-hosts, Whitney and Margot. Yeah, lots of fun. And we had DT on last week
Yes.
at the return of the Voice of Reason.
The Voice of Reason. People don't even know about that.
Back. Yeah.
I got to speak
it's
on
back
that.
and a little bit different.
I got to speak on last week's episode.
Oh,
I only caught the last 15 minutes, and I got to tell you, this brother represented manhood to the essence. This sister took her licks, and
She took some licks. What
she
happened,
took her
Bobby?
licks, man, because she knew in that instance that, first of all, this sister is balanced. Okay, she doesn't go off the edge and just become
She's very
extreme in her
calculated, very
views.
meticulous.
And she laid out for the most part. So I would imagine that tomorrow's show will be the return of the fiery Brandy. Okay, because she kind of laid back. But I got to give you some dap, man. You took them to school last week.
Oh,
brother.
get
Took 'em to
out of
school.
here. Get out
Yes,
of here.
I did.
Magnificent performance. If you hadn't seen that show, check it out on the replay joint.
Hey, so listen to this record right here. It's my homeboy Chase Ski talking about corporate America and the prison system. This show is going to be so crazy. Money, management, and mistakes. We'll be back.
Let's do it.
And one of the greatest tragedies in life is getting to the end of your life and looking back and realizing it was mediocre and it didn't have to be that way. The number one reason is people are unwilling to listen and care about what's important to the other person. But what if you could be someone who dared to care about everybody in your life? When you're in love, smoke gets in your eyes. But when you're anxious, you talk more than you listen. I asked my wife a month ago, I said, I don't know whether to have an affair or buy a motorcycle. And she said, if you have an affair, I'll kill you. If you get the motorcycle, you'll kill yourself. Go with the bike.
This is where all the softness leaves. Dr. Mark is all soft. I'm not going to be soft with you.
Motorcycle.
I'm not going to be soft with you.
I should go see Dr. Mark. Just come in for some sessions.
Yes, because he's a very caring kind of guy. I don't give a damn. So I'm going to tell you what my relationship tips are. I'm filling in for Doc today. Don't date an unchallenged idea.
You got to really break that down.
Yeah, I was just about to say, what do you
Most people don't challenge the beliefs they have about relationships. They just try to fit people into those templates.
Now, when you say challenge, what do you mean challenge?
This is Mark's tips. I'm
sorry.
Just for me. This
My
is
bad. Just
sorry.
wanted to expound upon the ideas presented in the tip section.
This is just nobody interrupts Dr. Mark. See how the white man, he has all the clout in the world. He get to talking, don't nobody say nothing. When I talk, what you mean? Who has said? Again, I say don't date an unchallenged idea. And simply what that means is a lot of times people will create relationship concepts or templates, and we like to call them principles or standards, right? A lot of people will create some standards from a space of hurt, from a space of, my dad was like this, so I expect, my man to be like this. Or like Dr. Goulston said, his wife, had some issues, and he had to recognize, this is from her father, right? But that idea was never challenged by her. It just becomes a relationship prerequisite. And the reason why we're going to be talking primarily about relationship ideals today is because you'll find people got different money ideals, right? People have a different relationship with money. And then when they get into a relationship with somebody else, their idea about money might be different too. So don't ever date or marry an unchallenged idea, because when you challenge an idea, you actually either disprove it or vet it. Do you understand what I'm saying?
No, I have. I'm completely lost.
Well, good Lord, don't ask him to clarify.
That's too bad, Bobby. That is too damned bad. Now, with that said, we're going to move on to today's topic. Very important topic. You'll see it manifest itself throughout the day. Today's topic, relationship, money, mistakes, and management. Can effective money management skills be the philosopher's stone for a successful relationship? Why am I asking these questions? Here are the questions today. What is money? And in what way can money be a relationship wrecker? A lot of people don't know. Money is the number one cause of divorce and causes stress in over 75% of Americans, according to the APA, American Psychological Association. Is your relationship with money prepared for the next global disaster / political event? You know, money is subject to speculation. Stock market is subject to speculation. Somebody put out a rumor, you lose half the value of your stocks. Your money gets weaker. What's the difference between money and currency? A lot of people don't know the difference between money and currency. We're going to cover all of this today. Who's the CEO of your relationship's bank account? And can you completely trust them? What is financial infidelity? Can you cheat on your partner with money? This is a big deal. These are a lot of questions that are happening in America today. That's why 75% of marriages are stressed out over bread. Is your relationship with your bank account, with money, more important than your relationship with your significant other? A lot of people want to know answers to this, and it's our job to provide. I don't think we're going to be able to, but we're going to have some.
We are.
Why would you
We got
say
some
that?
answers.
We've got
I'm just saying, we've got some people on the line that I trust more than you.
Well, that's your problem. They not in the skin I'm in.
Tell him Bobby Glanton.
In
Like
what
the way
ways?
you said that.
Yeah, that sounded good, right? In
Make
what
a brother
ways?
rare up.
Rare up. That's
Yes.
What is rare up,
It's a
Bobby?
Southern thing. I know what he meant.
I'm from Chattanooga. I'm rare up.
No, you done win Hollywood out
Yeah.
here. That's why we sitting in this studio right now. He done left Chattanooga and then went uptown.
You feel me?
I ain't mad at you, though.
In what ways can financial infidelity be more hurtful than emotional or physical infidelity?
Just let me know when we can get going with
I'm
this.
just saying. I got to ask these questions, right? It's important that we need to understand. Let me just forget the questions and go right to Bobby, because Bobby has answers. Bobby, I've asked a lot of questions.
Certainly you have.
Talk to me about the impact of money on relationships, good or bad, right or wrong.
Well, the first example I will give you in terms of the impact money does not have in my own personal situation is I never had a whole lot of money, and the more money I got, the more problems I had in relationships, because it's hard to determine if the person is with you for the money or you. And I've had more success in hard times in relationships because it was clear. If somebody was with me, they was down with me. There wasn't no question about that. And I remember one night I went to this nightclub, and this woman said, aren't you going to buy me a drink? I said, if I buy you a drink, I have just bought some of your time. And I'm not going to do that because I talk for a living. If anybody going to buy a drink, you going to buy me one.
Wow.
And she looked at me like, where are you from? I said, no, where are you from? Because what you have just did is put yourself in a position where you sold your time. Because if I buy you a drink, I have just purchased some of your time. Now, are you selling time? Are you selling your body? What are you selling? Because if we're socializing, there should be a fair exchange. And I got something to talk about that might be a benefit to you and it might not. But I'm not going to purchase your time when mine is for sale. So she looked at me like, what are you in here for? I said, I came in here to have a good time.
And
Not
to buy some time.
Not to go broke, for somebody that's just here to get drunk off of my paper,
Wow.
Because I'm on a budget.
Brandy?
Wow, she should have just waited for the guy that bought her the drink without asking for it.
Why?
Because somebody will.
But it's going to cost you something.
Well, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't.
Sometimes.
Yeah. Sometimes
You
it's
know
just
how
a
many
drink.
clubs have been turned out by fights based on the fact that a guy bought a woman a drink, she danced with another dude, and all hell broke loose?
If you send me a drink, I didn't ask you for anything, so you just bought a drink. That's it.
That ain't the way he looked at it. He just purchased an opportunity to come over and worry you the rest of the night.
A few minutes, not the rest of the night.
Let's just hear.
I'll send it back. And be like, oh, okay, no, thank you.
Right, but I think we're off into the club, the club side of things. I'm talking about in an intimate relationship. How does money impact positively and negatively that kind of relationship? What kind of agreement? Because money is a very personal thing. Mm-hmm. It's almost as personal as sex. I don't really want to just start talking to you about my financial situation. At what point is it the time to talk about money and where we stand, what we bring into the table?
Right away.
Really?
Right away, yeah. Because if you don't talk about it then and you get broadsided by it later, the relationship deteriorates so quickly that it's not even funny. All right, for example, what do you want? I mean, if you got certain criteria where you got to take care of this, and I need to know that right now. I don't need to find that out.
So I have a huge question for both of you and our guests that are listening right now. Are we really, in fact, dating resources?
Sometimes, yeah.
Let's just go into that.
I mean, a lot of times.
Brandy,
yeah,
are you?
Am I dating resources right now?
Yes, that's what I'm asking.
Good Lord, no. I need to be, though.
Why? Why?
Because if we're dating resources, then I can have more resources. But I'm not dating
You're going to have more
resources.
problems.
I'm not dating resources. I mean, I understand that whenever you do, there's always a trade-off.
Mm-hmm. Now, there's expectations.
Well, of course. That's what I mean.
And that's when it becomes problematic. And that's why so many relationships end up on the rocks, because a man has certain expectations. If he starts spending money and you don't discuss that, what he has just purchased, either it's your body, it's either your time.
Bobby, you're saying something really deep right now. Are you saying when men spend money on women, it's kind of a silent contract?
Oh, ain't nothing silent about it.
Ooh, go deeper.
Nothing silent about it, but what causes the problem is it's not discussed with any clarity. All right? And he's leading with his wallet. Okay, all right, I'm Mr. Big, and hey, I got it like this, and what do you need? What do you want? And what he's not telling you is, in exchange for that, you're going to have to hop when he say hop.
Of course. That is almost always the exchange. That is almost always why when I've talked to other women about this, it's like, if you're going to get into that type of situation, you do realize that isn't without a cost. Like, you might be getting your rent paid or your car note paid for and all this stuff like that, but you kind of are taking on somebody who now feels like they can tell you when and where you should go.
But women, you guys already know this.
Some do,
Let's
some
not
don't.
act like women are just fucking little Bo Peep skipping through the forest while all of this is happening.
But aren't we?
No. See, that's that old victimhood stuff we talk about a lot.
Victim, just happy days. And then...
Happy?
Wow.
Ooh, Lord.
This is going to be great. Listen, we have some special guests on the line right now. They're professionals at this. We're going to have to bring some pros in. Jesus. They're co-authors of Partners in Passion, Great Sex Made Simple, Tantric for Erotic Empowerment, and the Essence of Tantric Sexuality.
What is that?
It's a lot of humping. That's what it is. And authors of several books, including The Making of a Prophet and The Spiritual Warrior's Guide to Defeating Jezebel the Whore.
Wow.
I added the whore on the end of it.
Why does that keep coming up?
Sensationalism, right? I think it's a husband and wife team. They're on the line with us right now, and I want to bring them in and get their perspective on money management and mistakes that are made in relationships. Let's go. Come on in and welcome to the So What Show.
Hi, I'm Patricia Johnson.
And I'm Mark Michaels, and we're the authors of Partners in Passion.
Yes. There we go. Let's talk about it. Who's the CEO of your relationships bank account? Let's go.
Oh boy. I think, well, between us, we have our personal finances, and then we have joint finances, and I think I manage most of the joint.
Yeah, she manages most of the joint money. We're all on the table about what we've got, and we got together fairly late in life, so we came in with our own established. But
I'm with Bobby on this. Start with your discussion of who you are as sexual beings, and then pretty quick get on board about what your financial understandings and all of that very quickly. I think that far too often people really wait too long to have these kind of conversations.
Good stuff. Why is money such a problem, though, in relationships? 75% of Americans stressed out. Relationships are crashing around money. Why do you think that's the issue? Please go deeper.
Well, I mean, for starters, the economy is still pretty rough, and so it's a huge issue for people just to be getting by. But beyond that, I think it's because money has symbolic meanings for people. It carries a whole lot of other emotional baggage. And so a lot of times when people argue about money, the money's like the top level of what's being argued about.
That's really not what they're arguing about. But we're going to start with the bread. right? We're going to use the bread, our displeasure with the bread, to really get down to the issue of what we really want to talk about, is what you're saying?
Oftentimes, especially when relationships are in trouble, then money, when people are going through a separation, then money becomes invested with all the other stuff that's gone on in the relationship. But often that's because people haven't set out and really established their clear understandings at the beginning.
But I'm with you also on this concept of financial infidelity. Those can be really, really bad. And
especially if you're married to someone. I mean, someone runs up all this debt. You're both liable for it.
But what about...
And I think a lot of times what happens is that people don't discuss their spending with each other, and we refer to it in the book as non-consensual spending.
Wow.
So, if I go out and buy a boat and I don't tell her about it,
you cheated. You basically cheated on her. Right.
Yeah, that's a problem.
Right. So what about... Because a lot of people don't understand this. In America, the perception is marriage is a bad deal for men. So they're coming into the situation, there might be a new notion or a growing feeling that men may have to say, you know what, I'm marrying her, but I'm going to have to hide a couple of these bank accounts on the side just in case things go bad.
Well, right? how you go in is how you come out. So if you started out in a relationship giving her the impression that money's not an object when you know damn well that it is.
Exactly. Go ahead, Bobby.
Yes.
It's a recipe for disaster.
Money ain't nothing, baby. I got it. And
And he spent $300 that he should have paid his rent with, okay, to impress her.
Well, let me ask
all
all
he can't
of you guys
sustain that.
Let me ask all of you this. Everybody, panel, callers, let me ask. We know that the economy is in a bad way and has been for a long time, and there's been rumors that the dollar is going to collapse. If our relationships are basically predicated on money, aren't we putting all our eggs in the wrong basket?
Absolutely.
I'm just asking. We're about to take a quick break. When I come back, we'll answer that question. The So What Morning Show, money mistakes and marriage and relationships is getting kind of sticky. We'll be back.
Since 1971, when President Nixon took the United States off what was left of the gold standard, the world has operated under a system of money called fiat. The dollar, the pound, the euro are all government fiat currencies. Fiat is a Latin word meaning let it be so. It is the law that this government currency be money. Indeed, without that legal enforcement, and the fact that we must pay taxes in this money, that dollar bill or that computer digit that represents a dollar would be pretty much meaningless. Only the government has the power to issue fiat money, but banks can create it through lending. If somebody wants to borrow $10, a bank can create it from nowhere and lend it. It can then charge interest. Banks also create money by lending against an asset, such as a house. They're given the deeds to the house, and they create the money out of nowhere and lend it, at interest, of course. Over the last 40 years, since this fiat system of money became the global norm, the supply of money has grown exponentially. In fact, we've seen the greatest growth in the supply of money in history. But who benefits? Of course, those that have the power to issue money, governments and banks. They haven't had to do anything productive, they just create money. Then those companies and individuals that get this money early. They can spend it before the prices of the things they want to buy have risen to reflect the new money in circulation. In other words, they get services, products, assets cheap. But prices soon rise. So holders of assets such as shares or houses will then see gains without there necessarily being any improvements to the company or house in question. Often, this can lead to speculative bubbles. Who gets this money early? However money is created, be it through lending, fractional reserve banking, financial bailouts, or old-fashioned money printing, banks are always at or near the top of the money-issuing pyramid. Next come corporations who borrow large sums, those on lucrative government contracts for new ventures, particularly overseas, banks' associate companies and partners, those that borrow early and at low rates, and the bank's senior employees. They all quickly get their share of the pie. In some cases, this will come in the form of bonuses. But what about those at the bottom of the pyramid? Those on fixed wages or incomes, those who live in remote areas, or those with savings? By the time this newly created money has filtered down to them, the prices of the things they want to buy have increased. Their savings buy them less, however, and their wages remain largely unchanged. In some cases, they have to take on debt just to be able to afford the things they were previously able to buy, which means they have to go back to the banks. In reality, this process of creating money only redistributes wealth from the bottom to the top of the pyramid, and thus that ever-increasing gulf between rich and poor gets bigger and bigger and bigger.
Again, we're playing a game. This is why I asked the question before we went to break. Very important. What would your relationship be worth if the dollar collapsed? Are we putting way too much emphasis on money, its importance? If we look at that video, the fiat money. Remember 1971, Nixon took us off the gold standard. Before then, you could take a $20 bill certificate and go into a bank. It was a gold certificate. Here's $20, give me $20 in gold. Remember the question, what's the difference between money and currency? We've got currency, we don't have money, right? That video explained it, and these are the social game rules that we're interfacing with. We have, again, on the phone, Patricia and Michael, right? Patricia, Michael, did you guys hear the video?
Hi, we're here.
Did you guys hear that video?
Yeah.
The Matrix. We're in the Matrix. Neil?
Sketchy, so it's kind of... Can you hear us all right?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Great.
Were you able to hear that video at all?
A bit of it, yeah. And I mean, I think I don't know a whole lot about the gold standard and economics, but it's certainly true that we're living in an era when the gap is getting wider and wider between rich and poor, and the middle class is disappearing. So I think to take it back to relationships, you got to have a strong relationship and then deal with the money.
Yes.
You're playing games if you're thinking that you're not on equal footing with your partner and you're buying her time, or she's looking for a man who can provide for her, which I used to get when I did like the single websites years ago.
It's an awful premise to start a relationship on, and it's basing a relationship on commerce and a zero-sum game, and it's not relational. It's playing one another for manipulation reasons, and we strongly advise people not to go down that track.
And I think that's good advice. However, we live in a capitalist society, and I believe that the first thing we think about is what resources am I dating? What resources am I buying into?
I don't think so.
I think so.
I don't think all relationships start that way.
Most of them.
Well, I mean, you live in a town where there's a lot of that going on, so you might be a little bit tainted. But I do think a lot of times...
I'm tainted?
A little bit, yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Maybe. I don't know. I said you might be. I'm not sure.
It's all good. You might be. Something's wrong with you, so.
No, but I don't... I think that a lot of people do in the real world or go into relationships for whatever they believe are the right reasons. It might be for love or whatever, but then financial issues take a tug on you. And I think especially with the economic problems that are in our country right now, there might be higher instances of people, like maybe that girl that would have been, just kind of out taking care of herself, falling for somebody naturally, whatever. Now it's kind of like she has a little bit of an economic pinch. Okay, if I date this guy, I know that he'll take care of this and that. And I think maybe even the economic situation leads to more of that.
But do you see the hustle? To me, watching that video is clear. Banks make money out of thin air. Out of nothing. Our money is based on our belief in it. I think money is the biggest, coldest religion on planet Earth. Bobby?
Well, this phrase is imperative to understand. Perceived value. 5 years ago, the banking industry collapsed. The financial industry collapsed. And AIG was the principal focus of that. They were upside down. The legislation was passed to underwrite putting them back in the market. They were too big to fail. Now, They are flush with cash right now, and so are the banks. But they holding the money because too many Americans went out to lunch and never really connected the dots and understood that that's my money that they're playing with. And as it relates to relationships, it's hard to get people, particularly in the black culture, to sit down and become financially literate and to understand how things that are happening around the world have a direct impact upon their ability to thrive, survive, and prosper.
Right. I just think, Patricia and Michael, really quickly, I want you guys to give your website again and whatever book you guys have or direct people to, because we got a lot of fans and followers. They want to find out what your movement is. What is the website that people can connect to you on?
The website is www.mikesandjohnson.com.
Mm-hmm.
And
our current book title is Partners in Passion, a guide to great sex, emotional intimacy, and long-term love.
Wow. And let me just say this, Mike. You said something that I think is more important. You got to have a strong relationship before you have this conversation about money, or before money takes the forefront of what your relationship should be about. I think there are other currencies that make relationships valuable. I think intimacy is a currency. I think understanding, communication, all of these are currencies to me that are more valuable than money. But we tend to put money in front of the other currencies that actually make your relationship good, meaningful, and purposeful to your life. To me, as long as money takes the forefront, you're going to be subject to the machinations and movements and fluctuations of the market. I'm telling you, I got with this dude because he was rich, or I got with this dude because he had things. But then what if he takes a hit? You don't love him no more? You're on to the next movement? Is that what it's about?
Right. And I would include trust in that currency.
That's
I think trust as a currency is really important in relationships.
So only when you have the trust can you then have the conversation about the money.
So before we leave you guys, or you guys leave us, give us a couple of remedies for dealing with money. Like, what should people do in a relationship where they're like moving forward together and it's time to have that talk? How would you engage in that talk? Really quickly, give us a couple of tips.
First thing, we would advise people to not while communication is important, we feel talking is overrated. So
go deeper.
If you're going to have a tough conversation, sit in silence and just gaze at each other for at least 5 minutes.
They having a lot of sex, man.
They having some really good sex. They having good sex.
Happy,
you can hear it in them, right?
I'm looking at them photographs. They smiling, man.
I just wanted to look at you before I talk about the bank account. I'm just going to stare into your eyes. It's a lot of humping going on over there.
It could lead to that, absolutely.
And that's more fun than talking about money.
You better believe it.
You better believe it, right? Well, you know what? I just want to say we really appreciate you guys taking out the time and calling in. You guys had very invaluable information. I hope our fans love it and follow you and participate in your movement. Thanks again for joining the So What Show.
What part of the country are you guys in?
Oh, Bobby wants to know, what part of the country are you guys in?
We're near New York City, Northeast.
There you go. Well, we appreciate it. Well, it's been cold over there, so they've been canoodling all winter. So thanks again. We love you guys. Come back anytime. Appreciate it.
We'd be happy to. Thanks a lot.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
So again, I'm playing videos I like to play devil's advocate, because I'll hear people say, you got to have your shit together. Right? You got to have your life in order. Mm-hmm. In other words, you got to play the game. You got to get with the program. But everybody gets with the program for the short-term benefits. Long-term, they have no idea what's about to happen. And then they don't even know the strength of the relationship because they always play in the short term. We're about to take a quick break. So what in the building? I'm challenging you.
So the scissors is trash. See, the code is designed to have haves and have nots. And for the have nots to believe has lies. The haves keep having, have nots are grabbing.
What are you binge watching? American Horror Story.
Oh my God! No, this is what I do at home, and I'm going, oh my God! Can I do it again? Oh my God! When I saw Kathy Bates and Jessica Lange is there, who is basically a gay man in this show, you know, oh dear God! And there's always a Down syndrome person in the show, which I think is so great. He has this.
Welcome to Big Mama Nature's house. There's a war!
Yeah. Let's have debris all over him. That's a bad man.
Badass, man.
Woo!
Our chairs are damp.
The chairs are wet.
Our chairs are slightly damp.
I'm going to use that in the seat.
This is just like Apocalypse Now. So this is a good idea to light a torch near a highly flammable costume, mainly around my crotch area.
We're going to get cut out, yeah. It's just going to be cuts of Jean-Claude. They'll, like, pause them with loud music over it.
What are the chances of a dangerous animal in this island? 0. So just come.
Hi, I'm Ty Simpkins. Miss Danielle Basutti. Hi, this is Brooke Peoples. I'm Jocelyn Donahue.
Hi, I'm Keegan Allen, and you're watching
T Radio V. T Radio V.
T Radio V, radio in TV. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes.
T Radio V. Yo.
T Radio V. Radio in TV. Radio in TV.
I'm Zoe Williams.
And I'm Dr. Mark Goulston. I'm Geoff Brown.
And we make up the Zoe What Morning Show. You can find us here on tradiov.com every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I make you think.
He makes you laugh, and if I get a chance, I'll help you change.
Or make you cry with his attempts at humor.
Radio in TV.
Can you relate? We'll make it happen.
Look at you. What you doing?
Were you mumbling to yourself?
Back there mumbling.
To them. To them.
T Radio V. Radio in TV. Radio in TV.
And I ain't talking about no heaven shit. So if you blame anybody, then blame the programmers. We just an alien ant farm on some apple. Life's grander than we can fathom. Scientists split an atom trying to get closer to atoms.
Let that ride. Let it ride. Turn it back up. It's my homeboy Skizzer.
I'm just a protozoa, a simple
what is he talking about?
Listen to it. Ran for pipe throwing and leaving the mic torn with hard rhyme. Defined by the mind of a carbine. Guess it's by design that I spit like it's wartime. See, your DNA is an equation, so your whole mind's a mathematical ratio. Some niggas are predetermined to spit shit,
yeah!
while others are
Can you help me out a little bit?
Nah, man. You got to catch up, Uncle Bobby. You the bridge back to the past. We got to get that wisdom. That dude is the future right here.
I need a translator.
Ladies and gentlemen, the So What Morning Show back in the building. Another topic, money, mistakes, and management, and its effect on our relationships. Very important topic. We got another great guest on the line. Before I introduce her, though, let me ask some questions. Let's talk about money. Why is money the number one cause of divorce, relationship strife? You know, our guest has to hear these questions. Is your relationship prepared for the next global disaster or political event? How do you shelter your money? How do you shelter your savings account? How do you discipline yourself to be able to put money aside, especially in a tumultuous economy like the one we're in right now? You know, it's a lot going on to where your money is worth less and less and less. The more money in circulation, the less it's worth. How do you protect that? We've got somebody on the line right now that is exceedingly knowledgeable in this field. She's worked with everybody, man. She's called the Money Coach. She is a personal finance expert, television and radio personality, and the author of numerous books, including the New York Times bestseller, Zero Debt. Some people believe money in and of itself is debt. She gonna talk to us about it, though, right? She wrote the book, Zero Debt, The Ultimate Guide to Financial Freedom. Her name is Lynette Calfani, and, you know, at one point, she was in $100,000 in debt. Took her 3 years to pay it off, you know, credit card debt. She paid it off and rebounded, and since then has appeared on all types of national television programs. Oprah, Dr. Phil, Tyra Banks, Good Morning America. She's cold. She's heavy. I bring in folk that can take off from the free throw line and dunk with a blindfold on, and she's one of them. Lynette Calfani, welcome to the So What Morning Show. Let's talk.
Thank you so much for having me. It's great to be here. It's been overdue.
It's been overdue since the last time you did the show on the Foxhole, but hey, we still here.
I know.
So
this is a great topic to talk about, I tell you, because a lot of folks need to get their money right, and definitely if you're in a relationship, you really doubly and triply need to get it straight.
Well, talk to us about some of the...
be a pathway to wealth and a way to move forward for the both of you, or it can be a way that tears you apart.
Wow.
You know, individually, professionally, your relationship, etc. So this is a good subject.
Wow, this is good. So talk to us about ways that money could be a pathway to wealth for a married couple. Just give us that example, please.
Well, one of the things that I think a lot of people aren't really aware of is when you look at wealth, certainly in this country, in the United States, that almost across the board, people who are coupled up, people who have their little boo, they can be married to them or not, they can be gay or straight, they can be black, white, Asian, Latino, or other, nationality. Two partners pulling together, generally speaking, fare much better off financially than one. And it's not just because they're going to get economies of scale and, two people who are living together have a shared household expenses and food costs and only one overhead when it comes to the rent or the mortgage and all that. Of course, those things help, but it goes beyond that. It's because when setbacks come along as well, and they invariably will, two people can financially weather a storm better than one can. So if one person gets sick, the other person might have an income stream or the ability to work a second job, et cetera, to make up for that lost income. If one person gets laid off from the job, that second person can stand in. So across the board, when you look at it, married people and people in relationships who are proactively working together and on the same page financially, they do much better off financially than do single people by and large.
Right. And the number one indicator of success in America is marriage. And the number one indicator of financial ruin is divorce.
And when you think about it, obviously in some senses this makes sense. You've heard the phrase, of course, cheaper to keep her, which is when, a lot of guys think, I'm not going to get divorced after all, because you remember what Eddie Murphy was talking about, half, right? If you get divorced, you're going to give up at least half. Some people give up half and then some, frankly, because divorce has a long-lasting negative financial implications. It's not just that you might give up half of your assets or have to share a portion of your income even. It's that down the road, you might be compelled to pay alimony, child support. You might have to support two households, whereas before there was just one. So it's almost like everything from a cost standpoint gets doubled, and then from an income standpoint, it gets cut in half.
Right.
Divorce takes a financial toll. I read somewhere once, and I don't know if this is true, but I've been through a divorce financially, and I was on the paying end of the equation where I paid my ex-spouse more money than I even cared to share, but it was a lot.
Wow.
But I read once that they said, when divorce drags on, it's even more financially tumultuous, that for every 1 year that you go through a divorce, that it takes at least 3 years financially to recover.
Wow.
So if your divorce drags on, for example, 2 years, the theory goes, it's going to take you about a full 6 years to kind of recover and get back to where you were. So, that's just one word of wisdom. Obviously I wouldn't wish divorce on anybody just from a personal standpoint, but definitely financially speaking, if you can keep it together, you might want to just try to work it out with your mate.
Wow, work it out. That's a novel idea. Bobby Glanton.
subscribing to the throwaway mentality. I know we see, celebrities and whatnot and others who, they might be married 78 days or maybe even 78 months, which might be long, I guess, by Hollywood standards. But, sometimes I do think people don't fight hard enough. And again, you're talking to a person who's gone through a divorce myself. I was, previously married for 13 years. I've since remarried and am happily and successfully married now, and definitely got it right the second time around. But I do think that sometimes, maybe it's because of youth and inexperience, immaturity, lack of proper role models, financial issues and woes, a whole bunch of problems that make couples call it quits a little too quickly.
Right.
But I do know this, that divorce attorneys and other experts who are specializing in that marital litigation say that 70% of all couples who divorce cite financial strife and money problems as one big reason as part of their breakup.
Well, Bobby Glanton Smith has a question for you, Lynette. Bobby, go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah, I want to preface that question with an observation. Post OJ is cheaper to kill her.
What, Bobby? What, Bobby?
We would hope that people won't go there, but
if it's a financial consideration, it is truly cheaper if you can get away with it to just murder her.
Oh, no.
Oh, come on,
Please
Bobby.
don't listen
But
to
having
Bobby's
said
advice.
that, I was just to lighten up the moment. I'm curious
That
as to...
darkened the moment, Bobby. The moment is dark as hell now because of you.
Well, I didn't kill nobody and wouldn't do it because it's not my thing to do that. But my question to you, sister, is this. How did you rid yourself of $100,000 in debt?
Great question, Bobby.
That is a great question. So, Zoe, you alluded to me having $100,000 in credit card debt alone. This was back in 2001. And like you said, I paid it all off in 3 years. I never missed a single payment. Then I wrote this book about it called Zero Debt, The Ultimate Guide to Financial Freedom. It went on to become a New York Times bestseller, and obviously we did a lot of, media and promotion and all that good stuff. First, you got to know how I got into debt. Most people get into debt in one of two ways. Either they're a victim of one of the dreaded Ds, which is downsizing, divorce, a death in the family of the main breadwinner, disability, or disease. If any one of those 5 things happens to you, trust me, you're going to run into some financial problems, and in a lot of cases, it throws people into debt. Although I've personally been through 2 of the dreaded Ds, I've been downsized, I've been through a divorce, I can't say that those are the things that threw me into debt. In fact, I was already in debt when I was in the middle of my downsizing. I was already in debt when I was going through my divorce. What happened to me, though, is I was the other half of the equation. I don't blame the dreaded Ds for throwing me into debt. It was my own fiscal mismanagement. I was a classic overspender. And so the folks who haven't gone through one of those situations where they kind of got to hit financial rock bottom are typically either, sort of poor money managers or overspenders. And for me, it really was a case that I didn't have my financial priorities right and that I was kind of in denial, to be honest with you, about the problem that was my spending habits and my debt. I was in denial because I had a 6-figure job. I was, a Wall Street Journal reporter for CNBC. I was on air. I was making a great salary. I actually had a substantial retirement nest egg saved. My 401k had 6 figures in it. I paid all my bills on time. No bill collectors ever called me or had to hunt me down. I was making minimum payments, mind you, but I was paying everything on time. So even though I had life insurance and disability protection, I created a will in case something happened to me, to say what should happen to my kids and all that. So I was doing a lot of things right, but when it came to my spending, it was just out of control. And so because I was in that mindset that, what's the problem? Everybody getting paid is, yeah, I got this. I didn't even really want to add it up because I didn't really want to know. So, but when I finally did, of course, face reality and sit there and list everything, I said, oh, this is a big problem and I got to fix this.
Wow. So
what I did to get out of the debt, frankly, were a multitude of strategies. First thing I did was call up all my creditors and negotiate. So, if you're paying interest on top of the principal amount that you've charged on your credit card debt, it makes it extremely difficult to get out of debt, especially when you have a whopping amount of debt like I had. So because I actually had a good track record, I had paid all my, bills on time, I had leverage, and I was able to negotiate all of my credit card interest rates down to very low single-digit rates. In some cases, I even had 0%. So nothing was above 4.9%. I had several at 4.9%. 2.9% and 0 interest rates. So that helped me because I didn't have to keep paying the interest on top of the principal amount I was paying also. I also started doubling and tripling the minimum payments that I was making. So, I know now that minimum payments in the short run, which is what most of us try to do to get by, that really just means maximum payments in the long run, because you're just going to keep making the credit card companies rich by giving them additional amounts of interest over time. So once I got out of that mentality of paying the minimum payment and falling into that trap, I started knocking out my debts a lot more quickly. Wow. I did other things, too, like renegotiate my auto loan. I refinanced my auto loan that I had at the time. Again, this was, back in the early 2000s. I had a 2002 Toyota Highlander. It's the same car that I drive today. It's 2014, obviously. My car is long, almost 9 or 10 years been paid off now, and I'm still driving the same car because I like not having a car payment.
Right.
And but I had a negotiation with my auto finance company at the time, and I got my interest rates on my car loan knocked down, so that made my payment there more manageable, freeing up more money to put towards the credit card debt.
So, Lynette,
I started cutting out all the frivolous spending I was doing. Before, I would just, if I want to go to the Caribbean or go on vacation, I would just say, okay, let's roll out, everybody.
Let's do it.
And I would just put it on a credit card and worry about how I was going to pay for it later, or just pay with minimum payments later.
Right.
So I stopped stuff like that.
So, Lynette, let me ask you this question really quickly, because a lot of our fans want to know where they can find you. What is your website? What is a direct means where people can contact you, email, whatever? They want to know where you are. Please give us that website really quickly.
Sure. My free financial advice site is askthemoneycoach.com. So if you go on askthemoneycoach.com, you'll see I have, 1,500 or so articles up there where I've written about, virtually every money topic under the sun. So if you have questions, you can certainly look for the content and the articles and the videos that I have posted there, or you can write me and ask a question on there. If it's something, a subject I haven't tackled, I'll go ahead and answer your question. People who want coaching, the one-on-one coaching, they can reach me through there as well. My coaching services are not free. Those are paid, of course.
Yeah, exactly.
But really, just for the information and advice and whatnot, the best route to reach me is askthemoneycoach.com.
And
folks can email also at info@askthemoneycoach.com.
Got it. And what is your latest book? And Bobby wants to ask a quick question on the way out to break.
Sure. My latest book is Perfect Credit, 7 Steps to a Great Credit Rating. And it's all about how to navigate the credit scoring world. If you have credit problems, bad credit, if you want to improve your credit rating, it's critical in today's modern society to have a great credit rating, not just because you get lower interest rates and on credit cards, loans, student loans, car notes, and all that, but also because it can help you in the workplace to get a job, to rent a place, even to get lower insurance rates. My 11th book that I'm actually working on right now is a book on how to pay for college without going broke. It's called College Secrets.
Well, listen, we got to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to let Bobby ask you that question. Zoe, what morning shows? We're talking about money, management, and mistakes. She's going to tell us a couple of mistakes, too, when we come back. We'll be back.
Scam behind the curtain and just how it affects you. Every modern society creates currency in pretty much the same way. But since the U.S. dollar is the majority of the world's currency, I'm going to use the United States as our example. It all starts when some politician says, vote for me and I'll make sure the government provides you more free stuff than my opponent will. But there's no such thing as a free lunch. So to provide that supposedly free stuff, the politicians vote for the country to spend more than its income. This is called deficit spending. To pay for that deficit spending, the Treasury borrows currency by issuing a bond. So what's a bond? If you think about it, a bond is really nothing but a glorified IOU. It's a pretty piece of paper with numbers printed on it that says, loan me $1 trillion today, and I promise over a 10-year period I'm going to pay you back that $1 trillion plus interest. But what you need to understand is that Treasury bonds are our national debt. These glorified IOUs are to be paid back by you and I and our descendants through future taxation. Therefore, when the government issues a bond, it steals prosperity out of the future so that it can spend it today. The Treasury then holds a bond auction, and the world's largest banks show up and compete to buy part of our national debt and make a profit on it by earning interest. You'll notice that as we move through this process, the big banks are there, taking a cut every step of the way. This isn't by chance, as you'll see shortly. Then, through a shell game called open market operations, the banks get to sell some of those bonds to the Federal Reserve at a profit. To pay for the bonds, the Federal Reserve opens up its big old checkbook and writes bad, bogus, counterfeit checks that should bounce because they're drawn on an account that always has a zero balance. There isn't one penny in there. To quote from the Boston Federal Reserve, when you or I write a check, there must be sufficient funds in our account to cover that check. But when the Federal Reserve writes a check, there is no bank deposit on which that check is drawn. When the Federal Reserve writes a check, it is creating money. The Fed then hands those checks to the banks, and at this point, currency springs into existence. The banks then take that currency and buy more bonds at the next Treasury auction. But what is a check? A check is also an IOU. When you write a check, you're making a note that says, here's my IOU for cash. All you have to do is go to the bank and pick it up. Now, it's very, very important that you understand this process because we're going to come back later and show you the devastating effect this has on you. The Treasury issues IOUs, bonds. The banks then buy those IOUs with currency. The Federal Reserve then writes IOUs, checks, and hands them to the banks in exchange for the Treasury's IOUs, the bonds. And currency is created. So what's really happening is the Federal Reserve and the Treasury are just swapping IOUs, using the banks as middlemen, and abracadabra, presto, currency magically springs into existence. This process repeats and repeats over and over again, enriching the banks and indebting the public by raising the national debt. The end result is that there's a buildup of bonds at the Federal Reserve and currency at the Treasury. This process is also where all paper currency comes from. The Federal Reserve and the government mistakenly call it base money because they didn't watch episode 1 of this series and they don't know the difference between money and currency. But I will correctly refer to it as base currency because it is not money. It is currency, and as we've learned, there is a big difference. Money has to be a store of value and maintain its purchasing power over long periods of time. We learned in episode 1 that earlier in our history, our paper currency was just a claim check. It was a representation for real money of intrinsic
Wow. This is the So What Show. I'm sorry, man. I just gotta inundate you with information. It's my job. Welcome back to the So What Morning Show, where we're talking about money management, relationships, man. And that video is scary. If that's happening on a government level, and even on a global level, imagine what kind of impact is happening on an interpersonal level, on a relationship level.
Well, actually, I commend you for having this kind of show, Zoe, because, again, it's about perceived value. And this gives your listening audience an opportunity to reevaluate what's really important before they get caught up in that wheel of chasing money and losing sight of the fact that you are valuable in more aspects of your life than what you have in the bank that may or may not be worth something.
Right. Lynette California,
Yes,
are you still with us? Listen, I just want to say I really appreciate you coming on the show today. It means a lot. You know, me and Chucky go back a long way, and I thank Chucky on the air for connecting us way back when. And we got to connect more often because you are a powerhouse in this game. And once again, I want to thank you and also ask you to tell people what your website is because you're going to get inundated by a lot of people, and I appreciate you for being on.
You're very welcome, and any time at all, just reach out, and we'll be here for you. My site, again, is askthemoneycoach.com. That's my free financial advice blog where people can reach out if they have questions or if they want to, find out more about coaching services or just want to read some of the content, maybe check out some of my videos, articles, and see where I'm going to be next on TV, on media, that kind of thing. The brother who was just sitting there talking with you is correct because I always tell people, listen, your self-worth is totally different than your net worth. You know, your net worth is all about your assets or what you own minus your liabilities or what you owe. And frankly, some people might have a negative net worth, but that doesn't mean you don't have value as a person. It doesn't mean that you can't have a positive and a strong and an ever-developing sense of self-worth. The two are not connected.
Thank you so much, Lynette. We appreciate you, and I'll be reaching out to you soon. Thanks again for being on the show. We got to keep it moving. I love you to death. You'll hear from me soon.
Okay, take care now.
All right. Listen.
Bye-bye.
If y'all don't think we trying to change the world right now, I don't know what else to do.
Not trying, it's going down.
It's going down. Telling you, this is why we do the shows we do. We got other guests on the line, but before I get to my guests, I want to come back to my panel today. Bobby and Brandy, BB in the building.
Bad and black.
Bad and black in the building. Let me just say though, do you see the different dynamic that I'm trying to set up here? There's a game that needs to be played. Lynette Calfani is a master at how to play the game. But she left by saying something very, very powerful. There's something that supersedes the game. And you know what that is? Your own self-worth. But far too many of us are defined by what we have or by what we earn. Look at how you meet somebody. I'm a doctor. No, you're a person who practices medicine. You are defined by your occupation. Your occupation integrates you into an economy. We're all defined by how much we make.
You know, your smile increases your face value.
Go deeper, Bobby.
I love it.
And what I mean by that is simply people have gotten to the point where they're inundated with so many other propositions about who they are and what's important, what's valuable, to the extent where they'll go out and buy a vehicle, spend $200,000 on a car and forget what the purpose of having a car was. And they have to get from point A to point B. And they just mentioned the other day that Ludacris is having, he's in some form of bankruptcy or whatever. And then I heard some people say, oh man, he just covering up his assets. No, he wouldn't have put himself in that position if it wasn't just some money issues.
Right.
And I'm watching people like the game run around and make like it's Christmas every day, and nobody really checks these brothers and say, wait a minute, man, you got a fleeting opportunity to accumulate wealth. I wrote a book a few years ago called Let's Go to Work about Mr. Leon Gar, who came on the show.
Yes.
He said something that I want people to hear and hear it very clearly. It's not yours until you pay for it. And he used to tell me that all of the time. He said, Bobby, I made $1 million before I could spell $1 million. And I asked him, I said, what do you mean by that, Mr. Gar? He said, look, Bobby, I bought my way forward because he minimized debt. And he understood, he said, look, if I pay for something, it's truly an asset. But if you keep leveraging and accumulating debt that looks like an asset, man, it gets very confusing. It's like you got a lot of stuff. But then how much of it do you actually own? Because when you take these so-called assets to a bank to try to borrow money, they come back at you with that. But a point that you made a minute ago is real important, and I'll be quick with it. We have to learn how to impose our value on the system and leverage that. And we do that in terms of our own personal relationships. I get to go on your show, you get to come on my show. And our net value increases as well as our reach expands. And we have to condition ourselves to look at people as assets as opposed to liabilities.
Wow, good stuff, good stuff. We got another guest on the line that I'm about to go to right now. Again, I like to bring on professionals because, we got opinions. We got, our personal experiences, but I want to bring some pros in here to give you some valuable information. And one of those pros, Nancy Butler, right? Now, 30 years of experience in this area, okay? She's a certified financial planner and certified divorce financial analyst. Damn, a lot of people lose a lot in divorce. And divorce is such a cold situation. This is why they liken it to death. Because what happens with the kids, their identity gets reworked. Because when you were in a household with mom, dad, and a unit, now all of a sudden mom and dad are in two different households and there are different game rules for each household. Now your identity gets reworked, right? And then if one of those parents have more power than the other parent, that creates, this weird psychological flow for the kids. But then when we start talking about money, Lynette Calfani just said it. The number one indicator for being broke in America is divorce. So now we have somebody on the line right now. Nancy Butler, talk to us about money's impact on relationship and why is it so profound?
Hi there. How are you? Thank you for having me.
Oh, man, we're happy to have you. Let's talk about it.
Okay. I think one of the biggest issues I've seen coming from both sides of the fence, meaning looking at it from a financial planning standpoint, but then also looking at it as the divorce financial analyst. Typically what I've seen in the past, and you don't see this so much right now, which is a good thing, but you saw it a lot more in the past, where one spouse pretty much handled all the finances and the other spouse didn't really have the knowledge and experience and didn't even know what the other spouse was doing.
Wow.
So I think that's the first mistake, is you need to own this together, because you cannot be successful with one person managing it and the other one not being in the loop.
Are you saying, Nancy, that in a way you can't really trust your partner to do it by themselves? You really have to kind of oversee them or collectively do it? Is that what you're saying? Because to me that sounds like a trust issue.
I'm not saying that you can't trust them, because you definitely should be able to trust each other. Mm-hmm. Here's more what I'm talking about. Mm-hmm. If one person manages all the money and they know that they've set aside a certain amount, let's say, to spend on clothes each month or a trip each year, but the other one is not in the loop and doesn't know what those numbers are because they aren't really talking about it or agreeing to it, then the other person may be charging clothes that are above and beyond what the other person put up as the budget because they're just not communicating properly. That's more what I'm talking about.
Wow. So just, not purposely, I'm just putting aside a couple of hundred here, a couple of hundred there, and I'm not telling you about it.
Isn't that like the cheating, the financial cheating?
Infidelity?
Financial infidelity.
Yeah. I haven't really heard it worded that way. Financial infidelity.
I'm gonna buy myself. I'm gonna buy myself a pair of $400 headphones, and because you're not really involved in the money like that, I control the money. I'm just not gonna tell you about it.
Here's what I would generally suggest. It's okay to have a his account, a her account, and an our account. The his and her account is money they each have that they do not have to get permission to use. They can have complete control and do what they want with it, so that they do feel that they have control over their own life and their own finances. The our account is where money from each paycheck is going into that joint account to cover the goals that they have jointly, paying bills jointly, buying a home, setting up retirement, setting up whatever their future goals are, taking a trip, whatever, and then have a small amount that separately they can manage on their own. Right. That way they come together as a team for the big things that really matter, and yet they can still feel they have their own independence financially as well.
That's good stuff. Brandy?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I mean, how do you deal with in a situation like that when one person is contributing, say, more to the big pot or maybe has less for his or her account? Because it seems like there could be issues created there as well.
Right, and that's okay. Here's how I would look at that. I'm going to use some quick and easy numbers. Let's say one spouse earns $100,000 and the other spouse earns $20,000. Well, if you look at it, the one that earns $20,000 earns 20% of the total income that's coming into the household. Therefore, that person should be responsible for 20% of the bills coming into that household and have 20% of the amount that's coming out to spend on themselves personally, or they may agree to do 50-50 for what they spend personally. But as far as what they're contributing to the joint expenses, it should be in relationship to what their earnings are.
I think that would be problematic, Doc.
I do too.
Why is that?
Well, that sounds like a business relationship.
That's what it is. Marriage is a contract. It's business.
I actually don't mind it being, I think it's okay for you and your partner to decide that, okay, we're going to create a contract so that we know what we're living with. And whatever you both decide and you're okay with that, then I think that's fine if that works for you.
But this is why 75% of marriages are in trouble because of money. Money is the number one issue for marital problems because what happens is, in my opinion, Nancy, smack me in the mouth if I'm wrong, I believe that the business takes precedent over all the other meaningful things in the relationship. I think people are dating and marrying resources. They're not dating and marrying people and really giving a fuck about the people. It's resource dating. That's what it is to me.
I think it's the personalities that come into play. And for some people, the way I explained it, it works really well.
Mm-hmm.
Because if they manage their money together with real good conversations and agreement, then money is no longer an issue and they can truly enjoy each other's company, have a good time, and spend their life loving each other and not have to worry about all the other stuff because they've already taken care of it. For other people, you may be right that they will almost be offended by that, thinking that this is a business relationship and I didn't marry you for business. I married you because I love you and we should be able to trust each other and work together. And I agree with that part of it too, but there still needs to be guidelines that you both agree with.
And that is agreed.
Odds are you are not going to find two people that think about money the same way. And unless you talk about it and work it out and have an agreement, it's not going to work.
Right. That's good stuff. And I'll say this. There's a researcher over at UCLA. He wrote a book. It's called Intimate Relationships. Thomas Bradbury and another guy, Benjamin, I forgot his last name, but you can get the book. It's called Intimate Relationships. And once again, they've done research on it. When you got money, your marriage lasts longer. When you don't have money, your marriage is shorter. On average, poor people stay married 6 years. After that 6 year of poverty, there's a breakdown. They got to move. They got to go their separate ways. Money tends to make things easier. If you look up the word affluence, it's Latin. It's from the same word that we get the flu from. Influenza, affluence is the same thing. It just means to flow. Money is social lubricant. It makes you flow through life a little easier. It's just that simple.
No, it's not that simple.
It's not, Bobby?
Not in my estimation.
Go ahead, Bobby.
And what I mean by that is quality of life. Because if we're dealing with percentages, and like I make 20%, you make 80%, then that's not a union. That's a negotiation.
That's what it is, Bobby.
Yeah. Then I don't know.
Well, you don't want that, huh? Exactly.
I don't want to have to scratch my head every time we deal with that because there's some perceived values. All right, I'm worth more than 20% in a relationship.
Wow. Listen, we got to take
too much to the table.
It's not your value in the relationship.
Yes, it is.
It's
If you done said I can't spend no more than 20% of the money,
not your own contribution.
Don't make Nancy get up in you, Bobby. We about to take a quick break. I'll be right back.
I brought my gloves, Nancy. We can go a couple of rounds.
All right. We'll be right back. Nancy, hold on. I'm going to come back to you.
What's happening? This is your man Money B from Digital Underground, inviting everyone to join me for my new show, The Going Way Back Show with Money B, every Tuesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, right here on T Radio V. Join me, Tom Teasy, and DJ Always to give you your favorite hip-hop from back in the day. Right here on T Radio V.
Speaking of basketball, the Grizzlies are set to give away neck tattoos to fans at the team's February 21st game against the Clippers. Fans will receive stickers with the words Grizzlies to go on their neck in celebration of one of the team's newest surprises, James Johnson. Johnson has a tattoo of the words Naaman 3913 on his neck. That's in honor of his son, who was born 6 weeks early, fighting for his life in intensive care. He's doing well. So we're asking Ryan Clark, who is our resident expert, also athlete, is there a fascination or some type of correlation with professional athletes and tattoos?
I don't think so. I think tattoos are popular
everywhere. You know, it's a lot of non-athletes who have full sleeves of, you know, on their arms, on their legs, on their back, guys with tattoos on their neck. So I think some people do it for the artistry. A lot of people feel like when you put something on your body in ink, it's permanent. So they do things that are important to them. Obviously, the neck tattoo that James Johnson has is important to him. It's important to represent his son. You know, he was born early, and he's been in intensive care fighting. And so I think for him, it was just important to represent that. I think with athletes, what happens is it becomes popular and popularized because of how important they are to people. You know, you've seen so many people now have the tattoos on the back of their arms like LeBron James has of his initials. I was watching Marcus Smart play for Oklahoma State. He has his number on the back of his arm. So I think they're more visible. Basketball players especially. Allen Iverson kind of started it to where tattoos were important. I have tattoos. You know, and I also feel like tattoos doesn't say anything about your character, doesn't say anything about your upbringing or the type of person that you are. But I do view it as people see them sometimes negatively. When I was getting my tattoos, I made sure they could always be covered if I want to. If I wear a polo shirt, you won't see any of my tattoos. They're on my back, and they stop about right here on my arm. Because I know other people, employers, they can, at their discretion, say, you know what, I don't want this person representing my company this way. I don't necessarily know if it's a fascination so much with athletes and tattoos as it is to people being fascinated by the tattoos that athletes have.
Stephen A., your take on this?
No. Go ahead, Skip. You wanted to discuss it. I want to hear what you have to say. I'm coming.
I actually wanted to hear what you have to say. I think the floor is yours.
Ryan, you want to go again?
Well, what I think is...
In all seriousness, I don't find it to be a joking matter. And I've been on the record saying this, so I'm going to be very careful about what I say because I don't mind being held accountable for what I say and what I mean. I just hate when people misconstrue what I say like I don't have a command of the English language or something. I think I'm very clear. I don't have
Okay, so I'm doing Geoff Brown's rant. That's a pretty popular video. Everybody heard... Stephen A. go in on the tattoos, right? To me, this is the problem with the African American community as a whole. We're fucking opportunity slaves. His whole rant was about ruining an opportunity, right? If you wear the tattoo, you're going to be judged a certain way. You remember a few years back when that report came out that says, if your name sounds black, people won't hire you, right? So what do black people do? They started naming their kids normal names instead of Shaquanda Lisa. And I'm not an advocate of Shaquanda Lisa or Orangelo or Lemangelo. Don't name your kid Lemangelo, okay? But the point that I'm making is we're always adjusting and shifting our behavior, our nature, in order to be prepared for an opportunity. In my opinion, that is a perpetual victim. Take Macklemore. Fuck the music industry. I'm going to make records outside of the music industry and come around and grab 4 Grammys from the music industry. We never go outside of the system. We're always trying to be that perfect little person to fit within the system so we can get the opportunity. No disrespect. You heard Stephen A. say, I can't come into ESPN with tattoos. Well, you had a perfect example of somebody who was at ESPN with tattoos and the brother who was explaining the meaning of tattoos. He said, they don't come past my arm, and when I wear a polo or a suit, you can't see them. What about the culture and the history of tattoos? From the islanders, from Polynesians, from Africa, from the different cultures around the world. That is the problem with black people in this system. We tend to try to mold ourselves to a system that never gave 2 shakes of a fat rat's ass about us unless we behaved properly. Think about it. We want Jackie Robinson, but Jackie, you're going to have to take shit down your throat from us in order to be the conduit for the type of black man we want in the major leagues. Imagine if we would have kept the Negro Leagues. Imagine how much the Negro Leagues would be worth today if we never crossed the line. And I'm not saying segregation, stay black, but I'm saying look at what we owned before we integrated. We are losing who we really are, and we're just becoming opportunists to those that are creating the opportunities for us. Imagine if the Harlem Globetrotters had a league, a real league with ball players, right? Our problem is we have to behave a certain way, and we know at some point, especially black men, let's just be honest, black men can only take so much of that kowtowing shit. Am I lying, Bobby?
No, you're not. But what I have to speak on about the tattoo issue is, what does it really mean? Our comrade Corey Holcomb did a joke a few years ago where he said this guy put a tattoo of his girlfriend on his right breastplate. Then he put a tattoo of the child that they had together on his left breastplate, and he put a tattoo of his best friend in the center of his chest. And he found out that the baby wasn't his; it was his best friend. He had 3 tattoos of people that he couldn't stand on his chest.
Wow.
So, and when he told that joke many years ago, it made sense to me because I don't have any tattoos, never had an interest in getting tattooed because it just didn't make a whole lot of sense unless it's something really, really powerful and sustaining that's going to last a lifetime like that ink is. What is it? Because it just, I don't know.
I agree with you. It's got to mean something, but at the same time, our culture gets policed at every turn. Whatever we do, like for instance, you can chicken fight as long as it's not black people chicken fighting. You can dog fight, right? Look at that boy Michael Vick. He got persecuted for dog fighting, and that's not a black thing. Dog fighting been going on for a long time, and he got ran through the mud over it, right? Every time guess what? Allen Iverson comes in with braids. Okay, no more braids, niggas. Every time we do something culturally, there's an attack on the culture.
So then are you saying that we should just, if we have an inclination to do or express ourselves a certain way, we should not be concerned about...
I'm going to say something real controversial right now.
Okay.
Black people, and you know this is a big argument out there right now, black people and gay people don't have the same struggle. You saw that T-shirt, gay is the new black?
Yeah, I saw that.
Oh, yeah. So this is, we don't have the same struggle, but we do try to interface the monster of the system the same way. And that is, why are gay people trying to fight their way into Christianity? Christians hate you, according to their Bible. You're an abomination. So why not create your own religion? Why you got to force yourself into Christianity? There's another thing. Did you see the gay dudes that are forcing themselves into the sorority of the AKAs? No. They got their own little branch. Like,
are you kidding?
Like, hey, you are dudes. Why not just make a gay fraternity? Why you got to be an AKA? And black people do the same thing. I was at the NAACP Awards. You see the sister who plays Olivia Pope. I never watched the show.
Kerry Washington.
You see Kerry Washington talking about diversity. And it's a historic character. The character is a side chick who's fucking the president. It's a side chick. Every time we get praised, it's entertainment and for some base shit. Fucking Malcolm X, Denzel didn't get the award for Malcolm X. He got it for fucking Dirty Cop. Fucking Halle Berry didn't get the award for some great role she played. She got it for getting ran through by fucking, what's the actor's name? Billy Bob Thornton, right?
Thornton,
we always, like, you understand what I'm saying? The butler. Here's an award for the butler nigga. Okay, here's an award for the slave getting her ass beat. We get all of the stuff. We get praised for a narrative that is for servitude. We don't get praised for who we really are. We're bigger than entertainment. We're bigger than all of the shit that we're playing the game just to be a part of. Bobby?
Well, it goes back to perceived value, and what I mean by that is, we have never been able to monetize any of these things we're talking about. We don't own the tattoo shops. We don't brand the tattoos in a way that it becomes an income stream for these athletes and entertainers who paint their body with all that stuff. So my issue as it relates to the subject matter today, money and relationships, we have to do a better job of creating a better definition of what's valuable. Mm-hmm. Because as the lady that was on...
she's still on. Nancy's still with us.
Nancy talked about breaking money down. Well, there's more variables than just how much money you bring into a household. And we have to move away from that particular paradigm in order for people to be effective in relationships, in my opinion. Because if you start telling me I can't spend no more than 20% of the money, well, then I'm going to ask you about all the other things that I do and contribute to the relationship, and we're going to put a price tag on that.
But don't women do the reverse of that too when they say you can't put a price on motherhood?
Yeah, you can.
And then they mess around and take half. They take half.
Then
Nancy?
it wasn't 20% then.
Nancy, have you been?
I agree with what he's saying as far as your worth is not just your financial contribution. It's your worth as a person and what you contribute to the family as a whole, and I completely agree with that. The question earlier to me was about problems and struggles within couples about how they manage their finances. And what I'm saying is if you look at the amount of money that's coming in and look at what percentage each person should be contributing to the joint expenses, that's more what I was talking about, because he's absolutely right. Some people, just because they're making less money, doesn't mean they have less value to the relationship. That's 100% correct.
Oh, that's good stuff. Where can people find you? Website, email? Where can they find you? I want to send all the listeners over to you right now. Where can they find you? Tell us right now, Nancy.
www.aboveallelse.org.
Awesome stuff. Success in life and business. Nancy D. Butler, you were an amazing guest. I appreciate all your information. Please go to her website, look around, find some books, read up, get studied up. We appreciate you, Nancy. We're going to be having you back soon.
Thank you, sir.
All right. Now, this is what I'm going to say. There's a book out there called Men on Strike, Why Men Are Boycotting Marriage, Fatherhood, and the American Dream, and Why It Matters.
Wow.
Okay.
Who's the author?
The author is a woman. I forgot her. Helen S. Smith, Ph.D. It's very important that we go get this book because all of this, you're valuable and you mean something and you're worth something, don't mean shit because the laws, I'm just being honest, the laws are favoring women. Marriage is a bad deal. So when we talk about relationship equity and fairness, there is no fairness in the marriage construct. Until they rewrite it, men should boycott it. Go get that book.
Wow.
Read that book. So what? Money, mistakes, we're going to see it again. Holla at us.
For the sea, for water. As a mermaid, we have merchant. Merchant, bankers. Let me give an example of the difference between the law of water and the law of the land. The law of water, as I said, is a law of banking, money, as opposed to the law of the custom of the people or the law of the land. The Statue of Liberty must be put in water. It could not be put on American land as such. It had to be put in the harbor because it's not the Statue of Freedom. It's a Statue of Liberty. Liberty is what a sailor gets when he pulls into port on a ship. He gets liberty. He's not free. So America is not the land of the free and the home of the brave. We're not free or brave, period. We're not free. This is not a free country. Now let me give you an example of how this law of the water works. Why is it that you have to go to court? People are always concerned about going to court. You go to court because you play basketball and tennis on a court. How do you play tennis on a court? You play with a racket. Why? Because that's what it is. It's a racket. And make no mistake, they do not pick words by chance. These words are very serious. They do not use words in terms with no avail. These words are very important. When you go into a court, what's the idea of going to court? It's a game, like basketball. The whole idea in a court is to put the ball back in the other guy's court. One team gets up and they throw the ball over to that team of lawyers. That team gets up and throws the ball back into their court. And consequently, it's a ball game. And the judge is wearing a black robe, so he is the referee. The judge is the referee. He doesn't care which side wins or loses because he's going to get paid anyway. So he couldn't care less. He's merely there as a referee, and that's why he wears a black robe. And that's another interesting subject we can get into later. But the judge is a referee between two teams. The judge, we are told, rules from the bench. The word bench in Latin is a bank. Therefore, the judge rules for the bank. Where do you find banks? You find banks on both sides of a river. They're called river banks. And what does a river bank do? It directs the flow of the current sea. The juice. Consequently, your money is currency because it's the flow, the cash flow. And I'll give you an example of how this works. When a ship pulls into a harbor, all ships are referred to as female. Airships, rocket ships, sailing ships are always female. Why? There's a very good reason. Maritime Admiralty banking law says all ships are female because they're carrying items for money, and so consequently they are under Maritime Admiralty law. Admiralty is where we get the word admiral, admiral of the Navy. Let me give you an example of how this works. When a ship pulls into harbor, it parks at the dock, and it ties off at the dock. The captain has to provide for the port authorities a certificate of manifest, because yesterday the ship was not here, but this morning.
Wow, that was a pretty heavy video.
You know what was heavier than that? You really are a cute brother, man, because you got so many pictures illuminating the different looks of Zoe.
Hey.
I ain't mad at you, man.
Only from my uncle, man. Only from my uncle, brother.
Enjoy your youth, man.
Thank you, man. Thank you.
Pleasant surprise.
So let me wrap up the show. I played a lot of different kinds of videos because I want everybody to know, man, that this money shit is a game. It's a game. Look at what we do to each other for it. Look how we treat each other. Look how we treat our relationships. Our relationships ain't shit because money is more important than Jesus. And you can say different, but look at these churches. Look how they act. And it's all about bread in the most sanctified places of our society. So imagine if God ain't in your relationship. Look what you got. You got money, and that's going to be fought over by the ones who are the closest to you. So I presented a show that talked about money, politics, and relationship, and it's very difficult for me to look with any optimism because I know where we live. I know the beast we serve. And when I say the beast, I'm not a religious dude. I'm just saying this system is a monster. What branch of the court system is making more money than the family courts for divorce, for all types of other issues? They're pulling in bread, hand over fist, because we don't know the system. A judge will sit on that bench and say, ignorance is no excuse of the law. I'm glad you stupid. That's why I'm in your pockets. I had a lawyer tell me, dude, we are all too happy to jump in because we know that if you're coming to us, you can't handle it on your own. So we'll make a decision, and that decision might hurt your family, right? Lynette Calfani mentioned earlier, it's cheaper to keep her. What that really means is cheaper to work your situations out. But because we look at our relationships as a storehouse of resources and a business, we don't have the necessary tools it takes to work a relationship out once it hits the rocks. So I'm trying to pull in all this information so you can now recontextualize those beliefs. Go back to my original Dr. G's relationship toolbox points. Don't date an unchallenged idea. You got ideas about money. You got ideas about your family, what it should look like. If you've never challenged them, if your beliefs are born out of trauma and you don't challenge those traumatic beliefs, how you going to have any level of happiness? How you going to have any level of meaningful exchange with somebody? I'm telling you, there are currencies inherent in your soul that trump money all day in America. I'm Zoe Williams. That's my final thought. The voice of reason. I mean, the Zoe Wood Show. Crazy stuff. Let me do this really quickly. Brandy, tell them where they can find you.
You can find me on the internet at Instagram at Princess Wildflower and also on Twitter at Brandy McGee. That's BrandiMagee.
Bobby G.
At Glanton Smith on Twitter. My website is Real Men Don't Play. And tune in Thursday for the Real Men Don't Play show. We're going to piggyback off this subject matter, the economics of self-determination, models of possibility.
There we go. And I'm Zoe Williams, at Zoe Williams on Twitter, at Mr. Zoe What on Instagram. Follow me. Let's continue the dialogue. I don't know everything. I want to learn from you too. Holla at me. I'll see you next week with another barn burner. Deuces.